The message came at 0300 hours, when most of Earth was sleeping. Captain Do-Hyun Lee sat in the command chair of the patrol cruiser Steadfast, watching the stars through the main viewport. His shift was almost over. He was thinking about the coffee waiting for him in his quarters when the communication officer spoke. "Sir, we have incoming transmissions. Multiple sources. I count 12 distinct signals." Do-Hyun turned his chair. 12? From where? "Unknown vessels, sir. They just appeared at the edge of the system. No warning. No approach signals. They're just there." Do-Hyun felt his stomach tighten. In his 15 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. Ships did not simply appear. They traveled. They announced themselves. They followed protocols. "Show me," he said. The main screen changed to show the sensor data. Do-Hyun counted the dots. Then he counted again. His mouth went dry. "That's not 12 ships," he whispered. "That's 12 fleets. Over 3,000 vessels sat at the edge of Sol System. They were of different designs, different sizes, different colors. But they moved together, like a single organism, and they were all pointed at Earth." The communication officer's voice shook. "Sir, they're broadcasting. On all frequencies. They want us to hear this. Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was old. Not old like a grandfather. Old like a mountain. Old like a star. It spoke in perfect English, but there was no warmth in it. "Attention, humans of Sol. We are the Galactic Hegemony Council. We are the 12 eldest civilizations. We have guided this galaxy for 900,000 years. We have watched you grow. We have watched you spread beyond your world. Now we come to offer you a place among the ordered peoples." Do-Hyun gripped his armrests. He knew about the council. Everyone did. Humanity had detected their signals decades ago. They had never made contact. Until now. The voice continued. "All young species must pay tribute to the council. This is not punishment. This is the natural order. The young serve the old. The weak serve the strong. This is how peace is maintained. This is how the galaxy survives." A list appeared on the screen. Do-Hyun read it. Rare minerals from Earth's asteroids. Genetic samples from every human subspecies. Patents for human technology. Access to human networks. The list went on and on. "You have 72 standard hours to accept these terms. If you do not, you will be corrected. This is not a threat. This is simply what happens. We have corrected 17 species before you. Some chose to resist. They are gone. Some chose to obey too late. They are slaves. Choose wisely, humans." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Do-Hyun realized he had stopped breathing. "Send this to command," he said quietly. "Send it now." 4 hours later, Admiral Yuna Park stood in the command center of Horizon's Edge, Earth's largest orbital station. She was 53 years old. She had served in the fleet for 30 years. She had seen battles, accidents, and crises. But she had never seen her officers look so afraid. "Play it again," she said. They played the council's message. She listened with her hands clasped behind her back. Her face showed nothing. When it finished, she turned to face her senior staff. "Opinions," she said. Commander Jisoo Han stepped forward. She was the fleet's chief language expert. She had spent her career studying alien communications. "It's not a mistranslation. Admiral, they mean exactly what they said. They expect us to submit. They expect us to pay. They expect us to obey. And if we don't?" Jisoo hesitated. "I've found records, Admiral. Hidden in old signals we captured years ago. The Council has done this before. 17 times. The species that refused, they were destroyed. Completely. Not just defeated. Erased." A young officer spoke up. Lieutenant Hana Yoon was the tactical analysis chief. She was only 28, but she was brilliant. "I've run the simulations, Admiral. Every scenario. If we fight, we lose. Their fleet outnumbers ours 15 to 1. Their technology is more advanced. We might last a week, maybe 2. Then, Earth falls." Admiral Park nodded slowly. "So we cannot win." "No, Admiral, we cannot win." Another silence filled the room. Admiral Park walked to the viewport and looked down at Earth. The planet was beautiful. Blue and green and white. Home to 9 billion people. Home to everything humanity had ever built, ever dreamed, ever loved. "Tell me about the species that paid," she said without turning around. Jisoo answered. "At first, they survived. They paid their tribute. They followed the rules. But over time, the demands increased. More resources, more technology, more control. Within a few centuries, they were absorbed, their cultures erased, their people scattered. Paying tribute didn't save them. It just delayed the end." Admiral Park turned back to face them. "So we have 2 choices. Fight and die quickly, or submit and die slowly." "Yes, Admiral." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Get me a channel to Geneva. I need to speak with the Assembly." The Global Defense Assembly met in emergency session. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the great chamber. The air was thick with fear and anger and confusion. General Taewon Kang stood at the podium. He was the commander of Earth's ground forces. He was a large man with a loud voice. "We must prepare for war. We must fight. We are humans. We do not kneel." Ambassador Minji Choi rose to speak. She was Earth's voice to the galaxy. She was calm and careful with her words. "General, I understand your feelings. But we must be realistic. Perhaps we can negotiate. Perhaps we can delay. Perhaps we can find another way." "There is no other way," General Kang shouted. "You heard them. Submit or die. Those are the only options they gave us." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some called for war. Some called for peace. Some called for prayer. No one agreed on anything. Admiral Park watched from her screen on Horizon's edge. She listened to every word. She waited until the noise died down. Then, she spoke. "I have a question." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to her image on the main screen. "Has anyone considered option 3? Ambassador Choi frowned. "There is no option 3, Admiral." They were very clear. They were clear about what they want, Admiral Park said. But they did not consider what we might do. They see us as children. They expect us to obey or to throw a tantrum. They do not expect us to do something else entirely. General Kang leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" Admiral Park allowed herself a small smile. "I am suggesting that we give them an answer they have never heard before. An answer so simple, so clear, that it will change everything." "What answer?" Admiral Park looked at the assembly. She looked at the representatives of every nation. She looked at the faces of 9 billion people. "One word," she said. "Just one word." She told them the word. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, General Kang began to laugh. Ambassador Choi covered her mouth with her hand. And across Earth, in homes and stations and ships, people began to understand. The Council wanted tribute. The Council expected submission. The Council had ruled for 900,000 years, but they had never met humans before. The Assembly argued for 16 hours straight. Representatives shouted at each other. Some walked out. Some came back. The world watched on screens and waited for a decision. Admiral Yuna Park did not watch the debates. She was busy. She called engineer Sun Woo Baek to her office on Horizon's edge. Sun Woo was the head of Earth's secret research division. He was a quiet man with tired eyes and oil-stained hands. He built things that nobody else could imagine. Tell me about Project Forge, Admiral Park said. Sun Wu sat down heavily. How do you know about that? I am the Admiral of the fleet. I know about everything. He rubbed his face. Project Forge it's our insurance. We started it 20 years ago, when we first learned about the Council. We knew they would come for us someday. We knew we needed to be ready. What did you build? Sun Wu pulled out a data tablet. His fingers moved across the screen. Images appeared. Weapons, ships, systems, things that looked like they belonged in dreams. Gravity lances, he said. They create focused gravitational fields. They can crush a ship from the inside out. No shield can stop them because gravity goes through everything. Admiral Park studied the image. What else? Phase shift projectors. They make our ships appear to be in a different location than they actually are. Enemy weapons will pass right through the fake images. What else? Cascade emitters. They send out electromagnetic pulses that grow stronger as they spread. One emitter can disable an entire fleet formation. Admiral Park leaned back in her chair. Why have I never seen these weapons in action? Sun Wu's face was serious. Because we only get one chance, Admiral. If we showed these weapons in small fights, the Council would learn about them. They would prepare. They would find counters. We had to keep them secret until the moment we truly needed them. And that moment is now. Yes, Admiral. That moment is now. Admiral Park stood and walked to her viewport. The Council fleet was still sitting at the edge of the system. 3,000 ships, waiting like patient predators. Can we win? She asked. Sun Wu was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. We will surprise them. We will hurt them badly. But there are so many of them, and so few of us. We might win. We might not. I cannot promise victory. I am not asking for promises, Admiral Park said. I am asking for a chance. Whoa, a chance? Sun Wu nodded slowly. Yes, we can give you that. Down on Earth, Captain Do-Hyun Lee walked through the streets of Busan. He had been given 6 hours of leave before the final preparations began. He wanted to see his home one more time. The city was quiet. People moved through the streets with their heads down. Children were not playing in the parks. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone was afraid. Do-Hyun stopped at a small restaurant. It was his favorite place. The owner, an old woman named Grandmother Cho, made the best noodles in the city. He had been coming here since he was a child. Grandmother Cho saw him enter and smiled. Do-Hyun, sit, sit. I will make your usual. He sat at his regular table by the window. The restaurant was empty except for him. Grandmother Cho brought him tea, and then went to the kitchen. Do-Hyun looked out the window at the people passing by. He thought about the Council's message. He thought about the simulations that showed humanity losing. He thought about what Admiral Park was planning to do. Grandmother Cho returned with his noodles. She sat down across from him. You are going to fight them, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Grandmother. Good. She reached across the table and patted his hand. My grandfather fought in a war, you know. He told me that courage is not about winning. It is about standing up even when you might lose. It is about showing the world who you are. Do-Hyun felt his throat tighten. What if we fail? Then you fail standing on your feet, not kneeling on your knees. She smiled at him. On Horizon's edge, Lieutenant Hana Yoon worked without sleep. Her team ran simulation after simulation, looking for any advantage. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook from too much coffee. But she did not stop. Try flanking pattern 7 again, she said to her assistant. But this time, assume their command ships. Stay in the rear. Lieutenant, we have tried that pattern 6 times. It does not work. Then we will try it a 7th time, and an 8th, and a 9th, until we find something that does work. Her assistant sighed but obeyed. Hana watched the simulation play out on the screen. Human ships advanced. Council ships responded. Human ships exploded. Again, she slammed her hand on the console. There has to be a way. There has to be, a voice came from behind her. Perhaps you are looking at the wrong thing. Hana turned. Commander Jisoo Han stood in the doorway of the tactical center. What do you mean? Hana asked. Jisoo walked over and looked at the simulation. You are trying to beat them in a straight fight. You are trying to match their strength with strength. But that is not how humanity wins. We win by being different. By doing what they do not expect. They expect us to fight or to submit. Those are the only options they understand. Exactly. Jisoo smiled. So, we must do something they do not understand. We must confuse them. Surprise them. Make them question everything they think they know. Hana thought about this. Then she began to see it. Not a way to win the battle with force, but a way to win it with chaos. I need to talk to Admiral Park, she said. The 72 hours passed. The assembly finally voted. It was not unanimous. Some still wanted to negotiate. Some still wanted to surrender. But the majority agreed with Admiral Park's plan. Earth would not pay tribute. Earth would not submit. Earth would not beg. Earth would say no. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of Horizon's edge. Around her, officers moved to their stations. The air was electric with tension. Everyone knew that the next few minutes would change history. Open a channel, Admiral Park said. All frequencies. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. Channel open, Admiral. She straightened her uniform. She took a breath. Then she spoke. Galactic Hegemony Council. This is Admiral Una Park of the United Earth Fleet. I am responding to your demand for tribute. She paused. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings leaned closer to their screens. On Earth, 9 billion people held their breath. On the Council's flagship, the ancient speaker waited with a smile on his face. He had heard many responses before. All of them ended the same way. Admiral Park looked directly at the screen. Her voice was calm. No, that was all. One word, one syllable. 2 letters. 1. 2 letters. The speaker's smile faded. He looked at his advisors. They looked back at him, with confusion. Repeat your message, the speaker said. There seems to be an error in transmission. There is no error, Admiral Park said. My message is complete. No. We will not pay your tribute. We will not submit to your rule. We will not be corrected. The answer is no. The speaker's face twisted with anger. You do not understand what you are doing, human. You are insects. You are children. You cannot refuse us. No species has ever refused us. Then we will be the first. You will be destroyed. Admiral Park nodded slowly. Perhaps. But we will be destroyed free. And you will learn that humans do not kneel. She cut the transmission. The bridge was silent. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Others joined. Soon, the whole station was cheering. But Admiral Park did not smile. She looked out at the stars, where the Council fleet waited. They will come now, she said quietly. All of them. With everything they have. Lieutenant Yoon stepped up beside her. We will be ready, Admiral. Yes, Admiral Park said. Across the galaxy, on a dozen worlds and 100 stations, other species watched the transmission in shock. These were the tribute species. The conquered. The enslaved. For centuries, they had paid and obeyed and suffered. And now, for the first time, someone had said no. On a mining colony at the edge of known space, Supervisor Eunji Lim watched the recording for the 5th time. Her workers gathered around her. They were tired and thin and beaten down by years of tribute. What does this mean? One of them asked. Unji looked at the frozen image of Admiral Park on the screen. A human woman. Refusing the most powerful force in the galaxy. It means everything has changed, Unji said. It means we have a choice now. What choice? Unji turned to face her people. The choice to stand up. Just like they did. And in the darkness of space, 3,000 Council ships began to move toward Earth. The Council's flagship was called the Eternal Mandate. It was 3 kilometers long. It had been built 600,000 years ago and had never lost a battle. The speaker stood on its command bridge and watched his fleet move toward Earth. How long until we reach the human homeworld? He asked. 14 hours, Speaker. His tactical officer replied. Good. Prepare all weapons. When we arrive, I want their orbital stations destroyed. First. Then their moon bases. Then their cities. Leave nothing standing. Yes, Speaker. Should we offer them a final chance to surrender? The speaker considered this. He was old. He had seen many species rise and fall. Most of them begged in the end. It was satisfying to watch them beg. Yes, he said. One final chance. I want to hear them cry before they die. Admiral Una Park watched the Council fleet on her tactical display. 3,000 dots moved slowly across the screen like a swarm of insects. Her own fleet was 200 dots. Small, fragile, hopelessly outnumbered. All ships report ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Hana Yoon said. Project Forge systems? Online and standing by. Good. Admiral Park turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the fleet. Her face appeared on screens across 200 ships. Crews stopped what they were doing and listened. This is Admiral Park. In a few hours, we will face the largest enemy force in galactic history. They have more ships. They have more weapons. They have more experience. By every measure, we should lose. She paused. Let the words sink in. But we have something they do not have. We have something they have never faced before. We have the knowledge that we are fighting for everything that matters. Our homes. Our families. Our freedom. Our right to exist on our own terms. Her voice grew stronger. The Council has ruled this galaxy for 900,000 years. They have never been challenged. They have never been questioned. They think they are gods. Today, we will show them they are not. Today, we will show the entire galaxy that the age of tribute is over. Today, we will prove that courage matters more than numbers. She looked directly into the camera. Some of us will not survive this battle. I will not lie to you about that. But every one of us will be remembered. Every one of us will have stood for something greater than ourselves. That is worth more than living on our knees. That is worth more than safety purchased with our dignity. She saluted the screen. It has been my honor to serve with you. Now let us show the galaxy what humans are made of. The transmission ended. Across the fleet, crews returned to their duties, with new fire in their eyes. Captain Do-Hyun Lee stood on the bridge of the Steadfast. His ship was not the biggest in the fleet. It was not the most powerful. But it was his, and he loved it. Captain, his first officer said, the crew is ready. Thank you, Minjun. Do-Hyun looked around at his officers. They were young. Most of them had never seen real combat. But they were brave. He could see it in their faces. Listen to me, he said. We are going to be at the front of the formation. That means we will be the first to engage. The first to take fire. The first to bleed. He saw fear flicker in some eyes. Good. Fear kept you sharp. But we will also be the first to hurt them. The first to make them doubt. The first to show them that they made a terrible mistake coming here. We are the Steadfast. We do not break. We do not bend. We do not stop. Is that clear? Yes, Captain. Then battle stations. We meet them in 4 hours. On the Eternal Mandate, the speaker received reports from his fleet captains. Everything was in order. The humans had only 200 ships. This would be quick. This would be easy. Perhaps he would keep a few humans alive as servants. They seemed clever enough for simple tasks. Speaker, his sensor officer said. I am reading something strange from the human formation. What is it? They're ships. They are spreading out. They are not staying in defensive formation. They are moving into open space. The speaker frowned. This made no sense. A defensive formation was the only logical choice when outnumbered. What were the humans doing? Perhaps they are trying to surround us, his tactical officer suggested. A foolish plan. We can simply concentrate fire and destroy them in detail. No, the speaker said slowly. There is something else. Something we are not seeing. But he could not figure out what it was. And so, he gave the order to continue the advance. Admiral Park watched the Council fleet enter weapons range. Her hands were steady on the arms of her command chair. All ships, prepare for Phase 1, she said. On my mark. The Council ships opened fire. Thousands of energy beams streaked across space toward the human fleet. They were beautiful. In a terrible way. Rivers of light, each one capable of cutting a ship in half. Phase shift projectors. Now, Admiral Park ordered. Across the human fleet, Engineer Sun Woo Baek's devices activated. And suddenly, every human ship split into 5. The Council gunners saw 200 ships become 1,000. They did not know which were real and which were illusions. The energy beams passed through empty space. They hit nothing. On the Eternal Mandate, the speaker stared at his screen in confusion. What is this? Where are the real ships? We cannot tell, Speaker. Our sensors are confused. Then fire at all of them. Saturate the area. The Council fleet fired again. And again. And again. They filled space with weapons fire. But the human ships seemed to dance between the beams. The illusions flickered and died. But new ones appeared. The Council gunners could not find their targets. Phase 2, Admiral Park said. All ships, advance. The human fleet moved forward. Not away from the Council ships. Toward them. Into them. They are insane. The speaker whispered. They are flying directly at us. Activate gravity lances, Admiral Park ordered. Captain Lee's Steadfast was at the front of the charge. He saw a Council cruiser directly ahead, 3 times his size. His weapons officer looked at him with wide eyes. Fire, Lee said. The gravity lance activated. It did not shoot a beam or a missile. It simply reached out and grabbed the fabric of space around the enemy cruiser. Then, it pulled. The Council ship crumpled like paper in a fist. It folded in on itself, metal screaming, hull collapsing. In 3 seconds, it was a compressed ball of wreckage, spinning away into the darkness. Across the battle, other human ships fired their gravity lances. Council vessels died by the dozens. They had never faced this weapon. They had no defense against it. Their shields meant nothing when gravity itself was the enemy. What is happening? The speaker screamed. What are they doing to us? Unknown weapon speaker. We have no counter. Then ram them. Get close and ram them. The Council ships tried to close the distance. But now, the human fleet activated the cascade emitters. Waves of electromagnetic force rippled outward. Council ships went dark. Their systems failed. Their weapons stopped firing. They drifted helplessly, while human ships tore them apart. In the first hour, the Council lost 400 ships, then 500, then 600. Admiral Park watched the numbers change on her display. They were winning. Against all odds, they were winning. But it was not over yet. Speaker. The tactical officer on the Eternal Mandate said, We are taking heavy losses. We must reconsider our approach. 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. The speaker's face was dark with fury. He had lived for 100,000 years. He had commanded fleets that burned worlds. He would not be beaten by insects. All ships, new orders, he snarled. Ignore the small vessels. Concentrate all fire on their command station. Kill their admiral. The rest will fall apart. 300 council ships turned toward horizon's edge. They advanced in tight formation. Shields overlapping. Weapons charged. Admiral Park saw them coming. She did not flinch. All ships, protect the station, she ordered. Captain Lee heard the command. He looked at his tactical display. The council formation was too strong. Too focused. The human ships could slow it down, but they could not stop it. Unless someone broke the formation from within. Minjun, Lee said quietly. His first officer stared at him. That is an order. Get everyone off this ship. What are you going to do? Lee looked at the council formation on his screen. At the center was a command cruiser. If it died, the formation would collapse. I am going to open a door, he said. Minjun understood. His face went pale. Captain, no. There must be another way. There is no other way. And no time to find one. Lee stood and put his hand on Minjun's shoulder. You are a good officer. You will be a good captain someday. Now go. I'm HFY Story. In Enderning. On the Regading. Minjun saluted. Tears ran down his face. Then he ran to gather the crew. 3 minutes later, the Steadfast was empty except for Captain Do-hyun Lee. He sat alone on his bridge, hands on the controls. Ahead of him, the council formation grew larger. He thought about Grandmother Cho and her noodles. He thought about his parents, buried in the hills above Busan. He thought about Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Steadfast to horizon's edge, he said. The door will be open in 30 seconds. Do not waste it. Admiral Park's voice came back. Do-hyun, you do not have to do this. Yes, Admiral, I do. He smiled. It has been an honor. He pushed the engines to full power. The Steadfast leaped forward like an arrow. Council weapons fire hammered his shields. They fell. They hit his hull. Parts of his ship burned away. But he kept going. The Council command cruiser filled his viewport. He could see its bridge. He could see the officers inside. Their faces twisted with fear as they realized what was happening. For Earth. Captain Do-hyun Lee said. The Steadfast struck the command cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of white fire. The blast tore through the Council formation, destroying 6 more ships, crippling a dozen others. The formation broke. Admiral Park seized the moment. All ships, attack! Attack now! The human fleet poured through the gap that Captain Lee had made. They hit the Council ships from inside their own formation. The cascade emitters fired again. More Council ships went dark. More gravity lances reached out and crushed them. The speaker watched his fleet die around him. He could not believe it. He could not accept it. Retreat, he whispered. All ships, retreat. But it was too late to retreat. His fleet was in chaos. His ships were dying by the hundreds. And the humans kept coming, kept fighting, kept killing. In the medical bay of a damaged cruiser, Medic Sergeant Junho Shin worked without stopping. Wounded crew members filled every bed and covered every floor. He had been operating for 6 hours. His hands were covered in blood. But he kept going. Sergeant, a nurse said, we are out of bandages. Then tear up sheets, tear up uniforms, tear up anything. We do not let anyone die. He looked out the viewport at the battle raging outside. Ships exploded. Debris spun through space. It was terrible and beautiful and insane, but they were winning. Against all odds, they were winning. And Junho kept working, saving lives one at a time, because that was how humans fought. Not just with weapons. With hope. The battle lasted 11 hours. When it ended, the space around Earth was filled with wreckage. Broken ships drifted among clouds of debris. Escape pods floated in the darkness, blinking their rescue signals. The stars themselves seemed dimmed by the destruction. Admiral Una Park stood on the bridge of Horizon's Edge and looked at the numbers on her display. The Council had brought 3,000 ships. They were leaving with 1,200. The rest were destroyed or captured or drifting dead in space. Earth had started with 200 ships. 87 remained. "Contact the remaining Council vessels," Admiral Park said. "Tell them they may retrieve their escape pods and withdraw. We will not fire on rescue operations." Her communications officer looked surprised. "Admiral, should we not press the attack? Finish them?" "No." Park's voice was firm. "We are not murderers. We fought to defend ourselves, not to commit slaughter. Let them take their wounded and go. Let them tell the galaxy what happened here." The message went out. The Council ships began collecting their survivors. The human fleet watched, but did not interfere. On the Eternal Mandate, the Speaker sat alone in his command chamber. His flagship had survived, but barely. Half its systems were down. A third of its crew was dead. And his fleet, his beautiful, ancient, invincible fleet, an aide approached. "Speaker, the humans are allowing us to retrieve our escape pods. How generous of them." The Speaker said bitterly, "What are your orders?" The Speaker was silent for a long moment. He had lived 100,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had crushed rebellions and burned worlds. And now he had been beaten by a species that was younger than some of his furniture. "Collect our people," he said finally. "Then take us home. And the humans? Leave them, for now." His hands tightened on his chair. "But this is not over. This will never be over. They will regret this day." "Yes, Speaker." But even as he spoke, the Speaker knew it was an empty threat. The galaxy had watched this battle. Every species, every world, every station had seen the humans refuse to kneel. And they had seen the Council bleed. Nothing would ever be the same. On Earth, the news spread like fire. The Council had been defeated. The tribute demand was rejected. Humanity was free. People poured into the streets. They laughed and cried and hugged strangers. In Busan, in New York, in Lagos, in Shanghai, the celebrations began. For the first time in months, the fear was gone. But in the command center of Horizon's Edge, there was no celebration. Admiral Park stood before a screen showing the names of the dead. 12,000 humans had died in the battle. 12,000 names, scrolling slowly past. She found one name and stopped the scroll. Captain Do-Hyun Lee. Commanding Officer, UES, Steadfast. "We should promote him," Lieutenant Hana-Yoon said quietly. She stood beside the Admiral. Her face was pale with exhaustion. "Posthumously. He deserves to be remembered." "He will be remembered," Admiral Park said. "They all will be." She touched the screen where Lee's name glowed. She had sent him to his death. She had given the order that made his sacrifice necessary. That weight would never leave her. "What happens now, Admiral?" Yoon asked. "Now we prepare for what comes next. The Council will return, perhaps, but I do not think so. Not directly." Park turned away from the screen. "They are broken, but they are not dead. They will scheme. They will plot. They will try to find other ways to hurt us. We must be ready." "How do we get ready for that?" "By not standing alone." Admiral Park walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. There are other species out there. Species that have paid tribute for centuries. Species that have been waiting for someone to show them another way. We need to find them. We need to help them. We need to build something new. 17 Ray. 20. Ack sign. 117 Ray. Yoon thought about this. An alliance. Yes, not an empire, not a hegemony, an alliance of free peoples, working together because they choose to, not because they are forced to. Do you think they will join us? I think they already have. In the days that followed, The messages began to arrive. They came from mining colonies and farming worlds and trading stations scattered across the galaxy. They came from species that had been silent for centuries, afraid to speak, afraid to hope. Now they were not afraid anymore. Supervisor Unji Lim sent the first message. Her mining colony had watched the battle live on their screens. When it ended, her workers had cheered until their voices broke. "We refuse tribute," her message said. "We stand with Earth. Tell us what to do." Other messages followed. Dozens. Then hundreds. Species that the Council had bullied and robbed for generations were suddenly finding their voices. They wanted to join the humans. They wanted to be free. Commander Jisuhan organized the responses. She worked around the clock, translating messages, coordinating communications, building bridges between worlds that had never spoken before. "It's incredible," she told Admiral Park. "Species that were enemies are now talking. They're sharing technology, sharing resources. The Council kept them apart, on purpose. They were easier to control that way. Now they see that they're stronger together." "Exactly." Admiral Park nodded. "We need to bring them to one place. Hold a meeting. Start building this alliance properly." "Where?" "The station called Crossroads. It's neutral territory. Controlled by traders and merchants. No one owns it. I'll send the invitations." 3 weeks later, Ambassador Minji Choi arrived at Crossroads Station. She had been chosen to represent Earth at the first gathering of the Free Worlds Coalition. It was the most important diplomatic mission in human history. The station was crowded with representatives from 18 different species. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and wide. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had tentacles. But they all had the same look in their eyes: hope. "Ambassador Choi," one of them said, approaching her. His name was Kress. He was from a species called the Veln. They had paid tribute for 500 years. "I watched your Admiral's message. The one-word answer. I have played it 1,000 times. Did it inspire you?" Minji asked. "Inspire?" Kress made a sound that might have been a laugh. "It woke me up. I had forgotten what it felt like to have a choice. Your people reminded me." More representatives gathered around. They all wanted to speak with the human. They all wanted to understand. "How did you do it?" one asked. "How did you say no when everyone else was afraid?" Minji thought carefully before answering. "We were afraid too. We knew we might lose. We knew we might die. But we decided that some things are worth dying for. Freedom, dignity, the right to live on our own terms. Were those things worth 12,000 lives?" The question hurt. But Minji did not look away. "I do not know," she said honestly. "That is something each person must decide for themselves. But I know this. If we had said yes, we would have lost everything anyway. Just slowly, instead of quickly. Our people chose to take a stand. And because they did, all of you, now, have the same choice." The representatives were silent. Then, one by one, they nodded. "We are with you," Kress said. "The Free Worlds Coalition. It starts here. It starts now." Back on Earth, Lieutenant Hana Yoon received a promotion. Captain Hana Yoon now commanded the Steadfast II, a new ship built in the shipyards of Mars. It was named in honor of Do-Hyun Lee and his crew. She walked through her new ship on the day it was commissioned. The corridors were clean and bright. The systems were advanced. But something was missing. She found it in her ready room, a small plaque on the wall. She had asked for it to be made. "Captain Do-Hyun Lee," it said. He opened the door. We walked through. Yoon touched the plaque. She had never met Lee in person, but she knew his story. Everyone did. He had become a symbol of what humanity was willing to sacrifice for freedom. "I'll try to live up to it," she said quietly. "I promise." Her first officer knocked on the door. "Captain, we've received our orders." "What are they?" Patrol mission. The outer colonies. There are reports of Council sympathizers trying to disrupt trade routes. Yoon straightened her uniform. Then let's go show them that Earth protects its friends. She walked to the bridge of her new ship. Her crew was waiting. They were young, like she had been, but they were ready. Helm, she said. Take us out. The Steadfast Two rose from the shipyards and turned toward the stars. Behind it, Earth glowed blue and green. Ahead, the galaxy waited. Yoon looked at the stars and smiled. They had won the first battle. But the real work was just beginning. They had to build something lasting, something that would protect freedom not just for humans, but for everyone. It would take years, decades, maybe centuries, but it had started with one word, and it would continue as long as there were people willing to say it. No, not to injustice, not to oppression, not to fear, just no. And from that simple word, everything else would follow. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, Admiral Yuna Park returned to Earth for the first time. She had spent the weeks in space, coordinating the fleet, managing repairs, planning for the future. But now she needed to come home. She took a shuttle down to Korea. The sky was gray with winter clouds. Snow covered the mountains in the distance. She had grown up in these hills. She had learned to love Earth here, in this quiet corner of the planet. The memorial was built on a hillside overlooking the sea. It was simple. A wall of black stone with names carved into it. 12,000 names. 12,000 people who had died so that Earth could remain free. Admiral Park walked alone to the wall. She was not in uniform today. She wore simple clothes, like any other citizen. The wind was cold on her face. She found his name near the middle of the wall, Captain Do-Hyun Lee. She stood there for a long time, looking at those carved letters. She did not cry. She had done her crying alone, in her quarters, where no one could see. Now she simply remembered. I watched the recordings, she said quietly. Your last flight. The way you broke their formation. You saved the station. You saved all of us. The wind answered. Nothing else. I wish I could have found another way. I wish I could have saved you. But there was no other way. And you knew that. You chose to go anyway. She touched the stone. It was cold under her fingers. I will not let your death be wasted. I promise you that. We will build something good with the chance you gave us. Something that will last. She stood there until her hands were numb with cold. Then she stepped back, saluted the wall, and turned to leave. A young person was standing on the path. A cadet, in the gray uniform of the Fleet Academy. She looked nervous. Admiral Park? She said. Yes. I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I'm Ensign Jiwon Ryu. I'm starting at the academy next month. I wanted to ask you something. Admiral Park studied the young woman. She was maybe 19 or 20, too young to remember a time before the Council's shadow fell over Earth, but old enough to have watched the battle, to have seen the names on this wall grow longer every day. Ask, Park said. Jiwon hesitated. Then she spoke in a rush. Was it worth it? 12,000 people died. My brother died. His name is on that wall. Was it worth it? The words hung in the air between them. Admiral Park did not answer right away. She looked back at the wall, at the names, at the weight of all those lives. I cannot tell you if it was worth it, she said finally. That is something each person has to decide for themselves, each family. But what do you think? Park turned back to face the young ensign. I think that your brother, and everyone else on that wall, chose to fight because they believed in something. They believed that freedom mattered. They believed that standing up for what is right was more important than staying safe. They believed that their sacrifice would mean something. She took a step closer. Whether it was worth it depends on what we do now. If we take the freedom they bought and use it well, if we build something good, if we help others find the courage to stand up for themselves, then, yes, it was worth it. But if we waste it, if we become cruel or greedy or forget what we fought for, then no, it will all have been for nothing. Jiwan's eyes were wet. So it's up to us. Yes, it's up to all of us. Every day, every choice. The young ensign was quiet for a moment. Then, she straightened up and saluted. I won't waste it, Admiral. I promise. Park returned the salute. I know you won't, Ensign. I can see it in your eyes. Jiwan walked away down the path, back toward the city. Admiral Park watched her go. Then she looked one more time at the wall of names, at the 12,000 people who had given everything. We'll make it worth it, she said. All of it. Far across the galaxy, in a hidden station at the edge of Council space, the remaining members of the Galactic Hegemony gathered. There were only 9 of them now. 3 species had withdrawn after the defeat, blaming the others for the disaster. The speaker sat at the head of the table. He had not recovered from the battle. His hands shook. His voice was weak, but his anger burned, as hot as ever. We must respond, he said. We cannot allow this insult to stand. The humans must be punished. How? One of the counselors asked. We sent 3,000 ships. We lost over half of them. Our fleets are weakened. Our reputation is destroyed. Other tribute species are refusing to pay. We are losing control of entire sectors. Then we rebuild. We gather new forces. We return with 10,000 ships instead of 3,000. And lose 10,000 ships instead of 1,500? Another counselor shook his head. The humans have weapons we do not understand, technologies we cannot counter. A direct attack will not work. Then what do you suggest? The room was silent. No one had an answer. Finally, one of the counselors spoke. He was old, even by council standards. He had been part of the hegemony since its founding, 900,000 years ago. Perhaps, he said slowly, it is time to consider a different approach. What approach? We have always ruled by force, by fear, by making younger species kneel before us. It has worked for a long time. But the galaxy is changing. These humans, they are not like the others. They do not fear us. They do not respect us. And now, they are building something. A coalition, an alliance of species that refuse to pay tribute. So we destroy the coalition. We cannot. It is already too large, too spread out. We cannot be everywhere at once. The old counselor leaned forward. We have 2 choices. We can keep fighting until we destroy them, or they destroy us. Or we can do something we have never done before. What? Negotiate. As equals, the room exploded in outrage. Counselors shouted and pounded the table. The idea was unthinkable. Obscene. They were the eldest powers. They did not negotiate with children. But the old counselor waited until the noise died down. Then he spoke again. I have lived a long time. I have seen many things. And I have learned one truth above all others. Nothing lasts forever. Not empires. Not hegemony. Not even us. The question is whether we adapt and survive, or whether we refuse to change and die. He looked around the table at the other counselors. The humans have shown the galaxy that we can be beaten. That truth cannot be unlearned. We can spend the next 1,000 years fighting a war we might lose, or we can find a new way forward. The speaker stared at him with hatred in his eyes. You would have us beg these insects for peace? I would have us survive, whatever that requires. The room was silent again. No one agreed with the old counselor, but no one could argue with his logic either. Finally, the speaker spoke. We will discuss this further, but I will not make peace with the humans. Not now. Not ever. He swept out of the chamber. The other counselors followed, one by one. Only the old one remained, sitting alone at the empty table. They were supposed to be children, he whispered to himself. How did they beat us? But he knew the answer. He had known it from the moment he watched Admiral Park say that single word. The humans had beaten them because they were willing to die for something, and the Council, for all its power, had forgotten what it meant to believe in anything at all. 1 year later, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of Horizon's Edge and addressed the fleet. 200 ships had become 400. 80 species had joined the Free Worlds Coalition. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely. 1 year ago, she said, we faced a choice. Submit or fight. We chose to fight. And we won. Her face was on screens across the fleet, across Earth, across the coalition. But winning the battle was only the beginning. Now we have to win the peace. We have to show the galaxy that there is a better way. Not rule by force, but cooperation by choice. Not tribute demanded, but trade freely given. Not fear, but hope. She looked into the camera. She thought of Do-Hyun Lee, dying alone on his bridge. She thought of Ji-won Ryu, standing at the memorial, promising not to waste her brother's sacrifice. She thought of all the species reaching out to join the coalition, looking for a future they had never dared to imagine. The Council told us to bow, Admiral Park said. We stood instead, and we will keep standing, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who was ever told that they did not matter. Everyone who was ever told that they had no choice. Everyone who was ever told that they had to kneel. She raised her hand in salute. We are the Free Worlds Coalition. We are humanity and our friends, and we will never kneel again. The transmission ended. But the words kept spreading, from ship to ship, from world to world, from heart to heart. The galaxy had been waiting a long time for someone to say them. And now, finally, someone had. It started with one word. Just one word, spoken by one species, to powers that had ruled for 1,000,000 years. No, from that word, everything else had followed. The battle, the alliance, the hope, and it would keep following, for as long as there were people willing to say it. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology or conquest, just the simple, powerful truth that even the smallest voice can change everything, if it has the courage to speak. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready.